time, we're going to do the activity reports. Hempstead Fire Department, Chief Giorgino.
In the chief's absence, I have the following report that was submitted earlier today. This is for the month of July. General alarms, 63. Still alarms, 30. Rescue calls, 24. Mutual aid, general alarms, 2. The total number of alarms that the fire department responded to during the month of July was 119. There was only one fire with damages of over $10,000. There were no injuries to residents or to firefighters, and of course, no fatalities. God bless. That's the report of the fire.
Chairperson Vanessa Henry, Parks and Recreation.
Can I just make a statement about a couple of meetings ago, and I don't, the fire department's not here to represent themselves, so it's a little bit unfair in that respect, but I think it needs to be known that a couple of weeks ago, a resident in this village had made a couple of findings and inquiries about the fire department. And since then, that resident has received fines on their home. And I just find it appalling that you know, I'm not saying there's a connection, but it seems very, very likely that there is. And our residents will not be retaliated against. We will not stand for residents to be retaliated against in any way, shape, or form. And this village as a whole needs to have a mechanism in which residents can make complaints. We don't have a 311 system. We have nothing. If a resident needs to feel free to stand up here and say that something is wrong, and if you look in the back, I can tell you I took a picture of this resident's home, and I can tell you right now that someone had to get out of their car and walk physically around that resident's home to find a violation. And I don't know about anyone in this room, but I can tell you that with my bare eyes, as I can walk through the streets of the village of Hempstead, I can name about 75 to 100 violations without getting out of the car. So to me, it was highly targeted, and it will not be tolerated here. And I'm not saying any names or anything like that, but there is an issue here, and that needs to be resolved.
We do have a 311, but as to the accusation, if it could be formalized, we'll investigate it. It's a little bit of a blur, as you put it, because I don't have the information. But I'd be more than happy to research this further if you can share that with me. You can't just make a blanket comment or suspicion without giving everybody an opportunity to be heard. Both sides.
Agreed, but there should be someone here from the fire department to be heard.
Well, let's understand this, please. This is the first Monday of the month, and there are fire department meetings on the first Monday of the month. This is an unusual occurrence. It's a good time for me to interject that tomorrow's National Night Out. You're all invited, 5:30 tomorrow across the street, and that's the cause for the change of the date of the normal meeting. So the fire department should be, I think, in this case, excused from their absence. The report was presented on that meeting.
With all due respect, Mr. Mayor, for several times we've had residents, one resident in particular, inquire about the fire department, and each time you have defended the fire department. At what point in time does the fire department defend itself, and who is going to stand here and defend the residents of the village of Hempstead? Right there, those inquiries have been outstanding for going on a month now. There has been no response to those, and to sit and say because they're not here, even though they're supposed to be here, they're not here, that we're not unable to say that. And I don't feel that that's right. That's clearly
I said that. I didn't say that. I said we need more information so we can give a balanced report. I'm not quite sure now who it is that you said has made comments at the board meeting did not get responded to. There was at least one person who did, who got a response at 9 o'clock the next morning. So I'm not quite sure that the give and take is a fair criticism of the balance.
I understood. The give and take was where was a fire vehicle going on Father's Day to be down in South Jersey? And you were going to get back as a response, and you said it was a fire convention on Father's Day in South Jersey, and yet to respond to that.
I did respond to that to the individual who asked the question. When you ask the questions and the report is given, I respond to those people or send it to a department head to respond the next day.
And there has been no response.
No, I followed up on the person who asked the question. I did indeed.
Well, the person is here. I'm sure they will respond back.
Mr. Mayor, may I? Just to piggyback off Trustee Daniels, I'm certainly hoping that that is not the case, that anyone is retaliating against someone who makes a complaint in this village. I certainly hope that's not the case, because if that is the case, we have enough problems without going into anything like that. So I'm hoping that that's not the case.
As are we all. And with additional information, we can come up with the right answer. It's an obvious opportunity prior to the meeting to get all of that cleared up so we can present the right answers at the meeting. To bring it here without having an opportunity to examine both sides of an issue makes it a little bit difficult to come up with the right answers. Let's continue on.
At this time now, we want to have our personal violence court. There was no report to be submitted by zoning officers. The words contained. Hempstead Library Board, Eileen Duskins, our library director. Oh,
I gave you a report.
Vanessa.
We have recreational parks, right?
Oh.
Here's the library.
Yeah, we have that.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
No, it's not on. Sit up.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Ryan
Good evening.
and village trustees. The Park and Recreation Commission monthly meeting was held Tuesday, July 31st, 6:30 at Kennedy Memorial Park. In attendance were Commissioners Ricky Cook, Jeff Spencer, Chairperson myself, and the Parks and Recreation Department Night Supervisor Ricky Wilkerson. Superintendent Sanders, Commissioner Renee Cordova, and Randy Harrison were excused, and Commissioner Lourdes Watts was absent. The meeting was called to order by the chairperson at 6:35 p.m. A motion was made by the chairperson to accept the minutes from our meeting in June. The motion was seconded by Commissioner Spencer and Carroll. The commissioners reviewed 7 letters from the community requesting the use of the facilities at Hempstead Parks. 6 letters were approved and 1 letter was placed on hold pending further information. Under new business, we had a discussion and the commissioners asked me to come to this meeting to ask the new chief of police or one of his assistants and board members to attend our next meeting if possible. All of our meetings are held the last Tuesday of the month. The concern is, I'll just address a few of them. The first one, which was a concern, this is regarding the employees and the commissioners, gang activities in Hempstead Parks. I'm quite sure the police department is aware of that one. Also, homeless in Hempstead Parks, drugs in Hempstead Parks, as far as people sitting in their cars, I guess smoking marijuana, selling it. I'm not exactly sure what area they're referring to. And also complaints by employees that when they call the police department either doesn't come, and they have to contact them 5 or 6 times before a car shows up. And when the car does come, the police officer does not get out of the car and go into the office to find out who contacted them and what the problem was. So I'm hoping, Chief, Assistant Chief, that if you're available, you can attend our next meeting. If not, you can let me know when you'll be available. And I also appreciate it if some of the board members could come too, because this is very important to me and the commission, because we're talking about a place where our children go to play. And we cannot have this kind of activity going on. I mean, we need to work together to find a solution to these problems. And I hope you guys are taking it as seriously as we are. Thank you.
Chairperson, the meeting is the last Tuesday of the month at what time? Is it 7?
I'm sorry, it's at 6:30.
6:30.
Yes. So I'm hoping that somebody could contact me to let me know who could come. Mayor Ryan, you have my phone number. Trustee number, you have my phone number. You can contact me.
All right. Trustee Johnson, Deputy Mayor, and Deputy Mayor is assigned to that.
Okay.
Renfro and Johnson will be at the meeting, I'm sure. I believe Trustee Johnson has been in all the meetings so far.
No, he's been to a couple of meetings that I will.
Okay, well, he'll be.
And I'm hoping to see the police chief or assistant police chief there to also defend the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the report that was submitted by Ms. Gunn. Would you like to speak?
She didn't hear you.
Ms. Asquith, would you like to speak, although we did get your report submitted?
Okay, we have a second reading report that is kind of right now. There's a year report. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Summer reading club is underway. Their party is on August 10th. And we would like to attend with the honor. Children look forward to village officials being there to congratulate them on their summer. We have a book sale going on right now, so if you'd like to come over and buy some books, a lot of them are donations, a lot of them are bestsellers. Amnesty Day is September the 7th, and it gives the community the opportunity, if they have outstanding funds, they can come in, have those fines deleted. We want them back. We miss them. You've all heard about the Great American Reads, which is underway as a PBS national program, which is trying to get citizens involved in reading 100 books that have been pre-selected by individuals. The team advisory group will be burying the time capsule on library grounds very shortly, and some of the items that are included here is a cell phone, newspaper, receipts from McDonald's, and the village tax bill. We've expanded our museum program at the library. Currently, we have passes to the Hospital Museum, it's local, and we do have Saturday programs for them. Old Westbury Gardens, Creative Revolution, Long Island Children's Museum. Our new passes will include the Intrepid Sea Air and Space Museum, Old Page Restoration, and Garvey's Point Museum and Preserve. I've listed programs that will be upcoming for the fall, and it's on.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to have someone representing on the Traffic Safety Board, Lieutenant Karanchenko or Mary Burns. Hempstead Coordinating Council of Civics, Reginald Nolan Lucas.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees.
Good evening.
Yes, we had a round table with the chiefs, and we were supposed to get back to us about coming up with a solution about vagrants taking over homes and stuff of that nature. And also, he was supposed to combine other persons, within the village, the building department and UPW and so forth, to see how we can deal with the problem. So I like to say that I'm still waiting for the answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Youth Council, do you have a representative from Family and Children's Services? Board of Zoning Appeals, Chairman Edwin Monteverdi.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Trustees. Excuse me. The zoning board of appeal meeting was held on July the 5th, and the following is a breakdown of the cases that were heard on that particular evening, as well as the positions or actions that were respectively rendered by the board. The first case involved obtaining permission to install a 6-foot fence The hearing was adjourned because the applicant was not present to be part of the meeting. We had a second case 1967, where there was an application for El Balcón to construct 2 attached duplex homes at 370 Greenwich Street in Hempstead. This application required compliance with the following sections of the building codes. Under section 139-6, 139-63, 139-6. There's quite a few areas, but no representative was present. They requested that we give them another appointment, and that was transmitted through a fax that evening, so we didn't have to go too much of the narrative. We had a third case, which is case 1968. The applicant, Florentine Gonzalez, maintained a 2-car garage at 10-12 Morton Avenue, Hempstead. The decision was adjourned to September 6th, against the absence of the representative of this case. And lastly, the 5th case dealt with the construction of an additional home to be converted from 2 dwellings or in essence to 2 additional family dwellings at 45 West Grand Street. Those cases are on the calendar for this coming month to be heard, and the decision will be rendered accordingly. And that's the report.
Thank you, sir.
Now we're going to have our chairperson for the independence for the planning board.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. Good evening. The planning board met on July 30th. Present was Linwood Deans, Rasheed Walker, Leroy Brown, and Cleveland Pettis. Absent, Marcia Turner. Also present was Jackie Zor and Tracy August of Council, and Michelle Banks, Administrator to the Planning Board. Moved by Cleveland Pettis that the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 18th be dispensed with and accepted as reviewed. Second by Leroy Brown, all in favor. The following cases were approved. Case number 702, 41 Main Street for site plan approval of additional rear office. Case number 716, 719A Fulton Avenue for site plan approval for Long Island African Braiding Shop. Case number 717, 92 North Franklin Street for site plan approval of Dulcimania Candy Store. Case number 718, 175 Walden Road for site plan approval of Marley's Beauty Salon and Spa. And case number 723, 133 Fulton Avenue for site plan approval of Decor Kitchen and Bath Showroom. There was no further business. A motion was made by me to adjourn the meeting, second by Leroy Brown. All in favor? We do not have a meeting scheduled for August. Our next meeting will be Monday, September 17th.
Thank you.
Now at this time we're going to have Shereen Goodson, our Executive Director of the Hempstead Housing Authority.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. I'd like to introduce myself today. My name is Shereen Goodson. I'm the new Executive Director of the Village of Hempstead Housing Authority. It's my first meeting. So what I want to say is our last meeting, board meeting, was July 19th. It was held. And I'll briefly go over 4 points that has happened. We just underwent the action inspections for 2 properties, which both received passing HUD scores from 77 to 88 and from 75 to 84. We advertised through council or RFP when posted at Newsday as well as the HA website. The submission date for our RFP to the council was August 30th. As previously stated in the last report that was here, HA would like to partner with the village library to implement an after-school program for children. It would be a great value to our community to have such a program on site with the assistance of the village, of course. And the last point is a kitchen renovation at 260 Clinton. It was a hold by Assembly early in Cooper. This only woman's office is waiting for us to submit an application. The grant is for $155,000. We did submit the application after we talked to her in April, and we enthusiastically await for the money to be released in 2018.
Okay, we want to welcome you aboard. Residents, let's give her a nice warm greeting.
Now at this time, we're going to have Charlene Thompson, our Commissioner of the Community Development Agency.
Good evening, Your Honor, trustees. I'll start off with our federal opportunity zones where we're working with local businesses and commercial property owners to develop a pipeline of projects for funding once the fund becomes available. Under the Empire State Poverty Reduction Initiative, also known as ESPRI, our Community Empowerment Resource Center is scheduled to open the third week of September. Hours of operation will be from Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. We will be having a community resource fair on November 1st, beginning at 6 p.m. in the Hempstead Library. I'm pleased to announce tonight that our Safe Routes to School project construction began at the David A. Patterson School today and is expected to be completed within 3 weeks, well in time for schools the beginning of the new school year. Brownfield Opportunities Area Grant the study is slated to be completed by September 2018. We have a steering committee meeting set for Thursday, September 27th, and then a public meeting scheduled for Thursday, December 6th. With respect to the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, that was a $10 million planning grant. We did not make the final round. It's our understanding that the award will be made to a Suffolk County community, because the last 2 awards were made in Nassau County, among other reasons. Our Main Street Pedestrian Sidewalk Enhancement Program is scheduled to begin in September. Details will follow. Our local initiative support coalition funds public education campaigns. Our next education seminar is scheduled for Wednesday, September 26th at 6 p.m. in Kennedy Park, and will cover the subject matter of understanding local government. New initiatives, we're working with SUNY Old Westbury on 2 projects. One, a new entrepreneurs incubator program, which is slated to begin in October. Details will follow shortly. And secondly, we're working with one of the business classes at SUNY Old Westbury that will be adopting the Village of Hempstead to do a commercial asset mapping project. We'll also be working with the Village of Hempstead Chamber of Commerce on the new incubators program, as well as an MWBE certification initiative, and Hempstead is open for business campaign. The only other item is the Denton Green, the grant application for Denton Green improvements did go in, and time, and we look forward to a positive reply. That's my report for this evening.
Thank you.
Now, at this time, we're going to have our electrical board, Ronald Mark Garrett.
Good evening, Mayor Ryan, Deputy Mayor, and trustees. Good evening. This is the report for the Electrical Licensing Board meeting that was held in July on the 26th at called to order at 4:15 p.m. Present was Mr. Constantine, the electrical inspector, and Mr. Congeni. Absent was Mr. Kozlowski, myself, Mr. Dimitru, and Mr. Castillo. The minutes were read and reviewed and approved as read by the members present. There were 2 applicants that had their applications reviewed and everything was found to be in order, and they were granted part 1 of the license exam to take the test. The name was Leonardo Guerin of Merrick, New York, and Diego Pula of East Elmhurst, New York. Okay, applicants that took part 1 of the license exam and passed were Richard Brzezicki of Levittown, New York, and Jason Kane of East Rockaway, New York. The following applicant passed part 2 of the license exam, Ronald Hesselbar of Port Jefferson, New York. He's awaiting his verbal exit interview and submittal to the Board of Trustees for their approval for his license. They had a discussion on Grand Circuit wiring regarding armored cable, which is Article 320 of the National Electrical Code. Also metal clad cable, Article 330 of the National Electrical Code, and non-metallic cable, Article 334 of the National Electrical Code. No other further business that evening. They adjourned at 6 p.m. Respectfully submitted on the Thank you. I'll give you a copy. Thank you.
At this time now, we have Kelly McGee, chairperson of the plumbing board.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ryan, trustees.
Good evening.
Meeting is called to order on July 24th at 4:15 p.m. Members present, Mrs. Steinhardt, Mr. Castro, and myself, absent or none. We reviewed and discussed the resolution letter from the town of Babylon as per the Port Hempstead Legal Department. We've also reviewed the resolution letter amending chapter 100 of the village code. In regards to all board members are in agreement with said letters regarding the reciprocating licenses. There being no further business at this time, we will adjourn the process.
Thank you.
Historian Renee Bethany. Grain. Sorry.
I have one of the most mispronounced names in America. I was named after an aunt from France. She pronounced it Rhine, like the Seine River. The Ohio pronunciation is Ren. I get it. I don't worry about that. Whatever you want. And anyway, most people think I must be Bethany Wren because Bethany is usually a girl's first name, so no worries. Okay. Several items after speaking with Joyce Shackley of the League of American Voters and the NAACP, plus having a long talk with Hildine Bowens, who was a prior village historian. And after research during June and July of this year, I added 12 items recording specifically African American achievements in the village of Hempstead to the Hempstead375.com historical timeline. This is a work in progress. There will be, as part of the gala on Saturday, September 29th, whose major focus will be renaming Nichols Court to Mayor James Garner Way, I will create a display in the Village Hall courtroom. The display will list the mayors and presidents of our village, starting with incorporation in 1853, as completely as possible. I will state the dates when each leader served, detail each mayor's accomplishments as specifically as I can, and mount photos of mayors as they are available. Hempstead's leader was not called mayor until 1927, which is the reason that the photos of Hempstead mayors mounted on the courtroom wall only go back that far. But Mayor Ryan is actually roughly the 42nd leader of the village since incorporation. Note, the September 29th event will not be the first time that the street outside Village Hall has been renamed for a mayor. Nichols Court appears as an extension of Center Street in a 1900 Village of Hempstead map. In 1923, it is referred to as Samus Street in James D. Fish's report on the conversion of the town graveyard to Fulton Field, which was renamed Denton Green in December 1940. Sometime between 1923 and 1930, it was named Nichols Court in honor of a prior Hempstead president named Henry S. Nichols, who was the main driver between converting the neglected, ill-kept, and no longer used town graveyard into the village's central green space. That's why the sign says this is a graveyard, be respectful, but that mayor really pushed it, get it made into a park. And similarly, among Mayor Garner's accomplishments is the conversion of two huge commercial spaces, the Farmer Times in front and the former A&S between Fulton and Front. Those have been converted into two successful business plazas under his term. During July, I completed a grant application to New York State for help with restoring the historical appearance of St. George's Episcopal Church, of which I am a member. I'm very grateful to Mayor Ryan for supplying a letter of support to include with the application. Thank you. As well as to Nassau County Legislator Sheila Bino and to Jean Kelly, Director of Mary Brennan Inn. I also thank Charlene Thompson of the Community Development Agency for her helpful guidance. As part of the progress toward getting the work done, the St. George's Vestry has contacted Reggie Benjamin's group in hope of hiring locally when the labor on restoring the exterior begins next spring. I have broached the idea to Antonio Kelly and to the 375th Anniversary Committee of having Antonio create a memorial booklet for the 375th anniversary year with commemorative photos and captions of the monthly events held in 2018. I have not yet followed up on this as I have been busy with the grant application and with a strenuous last week dealing with a health crisis for an elderly family member, but we will get that project together. Thank you.
While you were standing there, Madam Historian, let me make sure I'm accurate on this and you correct me. You mentioned this was once Samus.
It's Samus on a 1923 map. It was center, it looks like it was center, and then part of it was called Samus, because Samus Tavern used to be at Fulton.
I was going to reference Samus Tavern, which was a famous watering hole in Hempstead, and where allegedly George Washington stopped.
Yeah.
Stopped a lot of places.
He did, but it is thought that because Hempstead was one of the few places east of Jamaica that had a hotel at that time. So he likely did. But yeah, there have been a lot of transitions, and there is precedent for this type of name.
Appreciate your report. We all do.
At this time now, we're going to have Tina Schuper from the Hempstead Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Deputy Mayor, trustees, how are you doing? I'd like to report from the Chamber of Commerce that we have just recently opened up a barber shop on Greenwich Avenue, which will also be a learning institute where we can get jobs to people in our community. And we also had a 10-year anniversary for one of our bakeries on Franklin Street and did a ribbon cutting. And we also, from the Chamber of Commerce, would like to appreciation, and we had a very good party, approval of the general, the new term, the general that we had. We just like to give congratulations to, and that's why.
Thank you, Madam. She's referencing the fact that on Saturday night at Kennedy Park, Musso George, Hempstead High School valedictorian class of 1987, was honored. He has recently become a brigadier general in the United States Army. Graduated from Hempstead High in 87, he graduated from West Point in 91. So it was quite a moment for all of us to share. He lived on Madison Avenue in Hempstead, attended what was then Fulton Avenue in West Hempstead High School.
As a reminder, there are sheets in the back if you have wanted to address the Board of Trustees. You can ask the questions. You don't have to submit them before the warrants and the bills. Does the Board of Trustees wish to have the minutes of the regular meeting on July 3rd, 2018, and special meeting on July 17th, 2018 read aloud?
I move that the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting on July 3rd, 2018, and the special meeting on July 17th, 2018 be dispensed with and be accepted as reviewed.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Agenda for August 6th, report of the village justice, month June 2018. Total number of cases before the court, 2,276. Total monies remitted to the village controller, $233,780. Copy of this report is on file in the village clerk's office during regular business hours. Clerk wishes to report that Mayor Ryan and Deputy Mayor Renfro has approved the miscellaneous business licenses as reviewed. Item number 5, does the board wish to approve the resolution granting taxpayer SPAMLP for the property known as 124 Fulton Avenue, Hempstead, New York, a refund of $70,000 for the tax years 2011 to 2012 through 2018, 2019.
So moved. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Does the board wish to approve the resolution granting taxpayer the 179 Group LLC for the property known as 179-185 North Franklin Street, Hempstead, New York, a refund of $140,000 for the tax years 2011, 2012 to 2017, 2018?
So moved. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro? Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption, that authorization be hereby granted for the Village of Hempstead to enter into an agreement with J.W. Security, LLC, 123 Emery Street, Hempstead, New York, 11550, to provide security services to safeguard employees and visitors to Village Hall, effective August 22nd, 2018 through May 31st, 2019, and subject to obtaining a bond that it meets New York State law requirements or in the amounts of $100,000, whichever is greater. Be it resolved that the mayor be and he hereby is authorized to execute said agreement on behalf of the Village of Hempstead on such terms and conditions as may be acceptable to the village attorney.
So moved. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
No.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Does the board wish to authorize negative declaration pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, for the addition of portable water wells to the water plant treatment plant, WTP, and improvements to the existing wells at the water treatment plant?
I'd like this opportunity, Mr. Alderman, to take the mic and give us an opportunity to hear exactly what all this means so that we can vote accordingly.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, trustees. The action being described, this is for the construction of test wells and sampling, and if the water quality is favorable, permanent wells at Kennedy Park. The action itself is it's a little complicated. It's the environmental review. So I'm asking you to accept the recommendations that are summarized. This is a technical report, technical background to support those. So the vote is to accept the environmental evaluation of that action as opposed to any particular contracts.
Thank you.
Is this time sensitive?
I'm sorry?
Is it time sensitive? Does it have to be voted on for tonight?
Yes, if we don't, then everything else in the project timeline has to be held up. We cannot spend money on the project without the secret declaration. So if you hold on this, it doesn't mean, if you vote yes on this, it's just to accept the evaluation. It does not mean you have to spend money. But if you don't adopt this, you cannot spend money on this. The status of the rest of the project, the well permit applications have been submitted to New York State DEC. They typically can take anywhere from a month to a year to rule on those. In this particular case, we think it would be much shorter than a year. So I'm expecting we would have the ability to proceed with the work within a couple of months. The next action that's also proceeding would be preparation of plans for public bidding of the actual drilling of the test well and permit. Those will have to go to the health department, Hempstead County Health Department. So we actually need 2 permits. Neither of those would be held up by the SECR, but all of the processes and the next bond issue, as far as adding the monies for this next bond issue, that would be held up and not back in the instance.
A few years ago, they had a big press conference, and they was speaking about Laurel Avenue and how the water quality was going to improve. And so what came out of that? What's the difference now on Laurel Avenue than it was 4 or 5 years ago when everything was supposed to be wonderful with water?
Well, I'm not sure who told you that everything was wonderful with water. I don't believe it was me. There is a separate action, and I think it's a separate resolution that we'll be talking about.
You're right.
So this is about Kennedy Park, building the test wells.
I understand that.
And a separate is another action which is talking about building a treatment system for Laurel Avenue. I think many people here may be aware that we had detections of Freon 22, which is a refrigerant, in both of the wells at Laurel Avenue. By running them in a very particular way, we're able to get them to be non-detecting well 9s. We're able to use one of the wells at Laurel Avenue right now, but that's an interim status. So we're preparing plans for the design of an air stripping tower, which would be very similar. There's 2 air stripping towers existing in Flint, so there's another air stripping tower down at Laurel to remove the Freon 22 and any other volatile compounds that might show up in the future.
Okay, so what work was done in Laurel a few years ago?
You may be talking about, there's an iron removal filter plant. I think that was built 10 or 12 years ago. The water quality at Laurel Avenue historically had been very good. And sometime in 1994, and we don't know why, all of a sudden the iron concentrations in both of the wells really started going up very steeply, and they've stayed very high. The standard for iron in drinking water allowed 0.3 parts per million. And it's not a health standard, but it's an aesthetic standard. If you have iron in the water, sometimes you can taste it. It's unpleasant. It'll stain your fixtures red or brown very often. If you put bleach in your laundry, the bleach can make the iron come out and it'll stain your clothes. So it's not a health standard, but it's certainly, the water department always strives to produce not only a safe quality of water, but a pleasing quality of water. So that plant was built to remove that iron. So to give you an example, the allowable number is 0.3 parts per million. Well 7, which is the worst well, usually comes out of the ground anywhere between 4.5, 5, 5.5 parts per million. So it's like 15 times higher than the standard. So that iron, I think that may be what you're referring to.
One more last question, maybe the most important question. Is how we're going to pay for it.
The bond issue, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, would amortize the project cost over 30 years, so it would be paid back through water rates. We are also making application to the state drinking water revolving fund. The application on that, again, gets a little complicated. It's technically for a loan. The interest rate on that loan varies somewhat. There's some negotiation, so it can be a below market rate loan. And what happened in the last 2 years, many of the loans that were accepted by other water suppliers were retroactively converted to grants. So we've been in contact with Senator Hammond's office, and he has encouraged us to apply to the DWSRF for each of these projects. We can't guarantee anything, but I think there's a reasonable chance that they might become grants, but you won't know that before you proceed.
Just one comment, if I might. The timeline to get that application in is September 7th. Okay, which means that SECRA would, if it's to be adopted, would need to be adopted. And any bonding authority would have to be granted in advance of that, to be able, because it's part of the package that they require to have. They want to know that the board has accepted the project and is willing to borrow the funds to do it. So without that, you know, we wouldn't be able to finalize.
This is a large amount of money. I would like to try and look into it further. I think that would be a prudent thing to do. Look into it further. I mean, you're talking about almost $5 million worth of bonds. That's a lot of money.
Okay, any other questions?
So that doesn't prevent us from moving forward with the secret process.
No, the secret process does not commit you to anything.
Okay.
It does allow you to stay on that track, and at some point, when there's a bond resolution, you have to make that decision on the funds. For the drinking water revolving fund, they have something, they take applications twice a year, but they call an intended use plan, an IUP, once a year. Usually comes out in October, and we need to get the application in September. So if we don't pass the secret now, we will be bumped out of the next year's opportunity.
Just so I understand the chronology here. So if this gets tabled today, the next bite of the apple has to be August 21st, so you're not going to do this September 7th. I just want to be clear with that, right? So
that would be my understanding as well.
That would be accurate.
So we got a 2-week buy, so to speak.
So which means we're not moving forward with the secret process tonight either.
Well, I think the secret process and the bonding process are two separate decisions.
Well, but I don't believe that's what Trustee Johnson is. I think that's his question. That's do you need to move this? I don't want to put words on it. You asked me, do we have to move this tonight, right?
No, I have a problem moving the secret. That's
Okay.
part of the studies.
We'll entertain a motion.
So
I'll second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Just two quick questions that kind of raised before. One is, this is just the first part of the Kennedy. So if the wells are drilled and you taste it, it tastes great, right? You still got to get the water to the plant.
Oh, yes.
So we still got to find a way to get the piping from Kennedy Park to the plant,
Right.
which will be
that's a large part.
That's going to be another large expenditure for this, right? And then number two, and I think we've paid particular attention to this, is that if we find that the water is not of a great quality, and we have to build an air stripper or something like that to go side by side next to that, what happens to our park?
Well, we're laying things out along the north edge of the park. The main, there'd be three pieces as envisaged right now. There'd be two separate wells. One of them going well 10, the other going well 11. Each would be in a small well house, about 12 by 15 foot. Both of those would be on near the north boundary of the park, as far north as we can get. The health department wants us to push it south, and we want to push it north. There's going to be a little haggling on the health department.
That would be near the firehouse on Jersey Road.
Yes. And there's an area, there's a little garage in the back.
Yes.
And there's a sort of a, I guess you'd call it a gardening maintenance area. There's sort of a compost pile and some chips and dirt. The third piece of this would be a slightly larger building, probably 20 by 30, 35 foot, which would contain the control systems, the electrical infrastructure, and also the chemical tanks. So the water from each of the wells would pump into that building, and the wells have to be 100 foot clear from the nearest cesspool. There are no cesspools, but we're going to have, the wells are going to end up probably being 50 to 80, 90 feet in from the fence line. The chemical building can be right up near the fence line. So the idea would be the larger, more noticeable building all the way in the back that's really not used now. And the water would be pumped into that building, the chemical treatment would take place there, and then it would be piped out underground. And the electric lines would all be buried running through a small building. So you have a couple buildings that wouldn't have any noise or anything associated with them, but we're trying very hard to keep it all the way right at the north edge.
But if you needed a stripper, you needed a
I
hair
would
stripper.
put that one right over by that north fence.
Right, but an hair stripper is how tall?
It can be 30, 35 feet.
Right, so we're
It's
gonna have a
noticeable.
35-foot
It's
hair
noticeable,
stripper
yeah.
at the beginning of our park.
Well, it would be in the back, but yes, it would not be a beautiful light, for sure.
You know where you're speaking of, right?
Yeah. Like on a-
Sort of the east side.
Between the
north
fire department and the garage. So I think it should be clear that none of this is taking place on any of the athletic fields at Kenwood Park.
Correct.
But my main question to you is, if we don't do this, what are our options?
We have some problems. We have two plants right now, Laurel Avenue in the southwest and Clinton Street all the way up to the north end. And we have some treatment systems at Clinton Street which will remove volatile compounds, a lot of the things that have come to us from the Roosevelt Field. And those are working well. But some of the wells up at Clinton Street are very old. There's two wells in particular that are having increasing levels of iron. They're not as high as Laurel Avenue, but we use them very sparingly because we don't have iron in the filter plant. The iron plant built down Laurel Avenue, I think, was $3.8 million 12 years ago. So one at Clinton would be at least that. And then there are other emerging contaminants that hold water in the street, and that's contaminants keeping their honest. So one of our hopes is that the wells at Kennedy Park would have better water quality than Clinton Street. So that we would have new wells, and it's actually cheaper to build a new well than to put the treatment system on an old one. And then the operating cost of a clean well is much, much less than the operating cost of the treatment system.
I think, Bob, I think what my fellow trustee would definitely be trying to say is that if we don't drill these wells in time, there's a strong possibility that New York State will not allow you to drill any more wells. So we actually need a placeholder right now, which is what we're trying to do. But the other option, which I will continue to push for, is out by Hempstead High School, where we have enough excess land and it's away from everybody else that maybe at one day we could possibly at least try a test well there. I think that's the better spot.
That as a fourth well site, I have that on my Christmas list for a number of years.
Right.
That it's a multi-year process.
I've seen that plan, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the two gentlemen to my right, because they're assigned from this board to the water department. There's a powerful number of things that have to be accomplished for the residents as we go forward, and they're a big part of that. Okay. You might stay right there.
Does the board wish to authorize a negative declaration pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act (SECRA) for water treatment plan WTP upgrades and related improvements?
Second.
Move the vote.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes. I'd like to, thank you, sir. I'd like to mention for everybody that you're fine. You have 10, 11, 12, and 14 have been built. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And I just want to point out to everybody so that you know so we have more time to digest, and we have to take a vote on that. Please listen to this date because it's new. It's August 21 at 4 p.m. We usually just do the bills that day. We try to avoid having extra items. It's necessary, though, for us to do that. We're going to be talking about the supplemental funding for the village fuel station, which is about $700,000. We're talking about the water wells at Kennedy Park, and with water plant improvements, a great deal of that Freon issue we discussed before at Laurel Avenue. So those of you that would like to attend that and see the vote in public, it will be August 21 at 4 p.m. in this room. Thank you. Well, number 13.
Now we're going to go to number 13. Thank you, Mr. Austin. Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that pursuant to the recommendation of Larry Lutz, purchasing agent, and B. John Sarahani, chief engineer, that bid number 5, HENV 2017-2018, requirement specification cleaning, TV, inspection, repair, and rehabilitation of sewage pipelines of various streets in the incorporated village of Hempstead be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, Earth Repair LLC, P.O. Box 516-119 North Phillips Avenue, Beyond, New York 11972, in the amount of $299,989. I need a second.
Second. I have a question. Do we have anyone here that could explain exactly what streets are being worked on, where is work being done?
B. John, can you come forward, please?
I don't have this department and the department head and this. It's a requirement contract with a period of 1 year.
I can't hear you.
This is a requirement contract we put out every year, and we do a rough cleaning of the pipeline, and we check with the close CCTV, and if it needs repair, we repair, and if we have to remind it. I don't have a list of what the street is going to be done. The list is with the water sewer department.
I have another question for our statement. The last time they had some type of pipe work done was a serious rodent problem. Are you doing anything to eradicate the rodents before you start this underground work? Because the last time they did something in the winter and mice were everywhere in Hempstead. It was a real bad situation. So is that part of it, or is that doing the work?
No, that's not part of it.
And the rodents that run everywhere?
The pipes are old and needs preventive maintenance. This, what it does preventive maintenance and a little bit repair and rehabilitation on the system.
So nothing is being done?
I'm not one of that. I can answer for that. Maybe I can refer to Frankie on our university.
Thank you.
I move to vote.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Item number 14 was pulled. We're going to go to item 15. Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that pursuant to the recommendation of Larry Lutz and B. John Farahani, chief engineer, that bid number 6, HENV 2016-2017, Main Street Beautification and Pedestrian Access Enhancement Project in the Incorporation Village of Hempstead be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, road worker head, 180 Lincoln Avenue, Westbury, New York, in the amount of $1,516,805. Any motion?
So moved.
Second.
Question?
Is this a grant?
It is. It's New York State grant. It's the Main Street project I reported on earlier.
Which area of Main Street is this?
Do you know,
I don't know.
So if you know where the bus shelter is right next to Family and Children's, and there's like 6 parking spaces, that will be moved back, and then there'll be a water feature and sidewalk improvements around that area, and creating a green space and pedestrian sitting area. This was a project that was pushed forward by the previous one of our preceding commissioner, and was awarded a significant state grant. And so we hope to begin that project.
I can't ask the question until we
need a
We need a motion before the question.
I'll make the motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Question?
Question. Is there any reason we have to approve this tonight?
You don't have to do it tonight.
Can we put it on for the next one, for the next meeting?
If you want to.
Can we table it for the next meeting?
You can.
Item number 17 has been pulled.
My suggestion would be though, in the interim, you should contact the superintendent, Michael Taylor, at the water department. Because he can give you a further background as to the memorandum that's next to the agenda.
And so it's so built.
Yes. Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that pursuant to section 50-28, paragraph A-2 of the Code of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead.
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Oh, yeah, withdraw his motion.
Do I need to withdraw that motion?
It was seconded.
Seconded?
The motion was made and seconded.
Right, so we tabled it.
There is nothing that
No,
says we have to withdraw.
you moved in seconds, we discussed it. We decided to discuss it and say we don't want to vote on it, so it's tabled.
Okay, thank you.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that pursuant to section 50-28, paragraph A-2 of the Code of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead is hereby granted for the St. Ladislaw Church, 18 Richardson Place, Hempstead, New York, to erect a tent on the church grounds to hold a bazaar commencing on Thursday, August 23rd, 2018 to September 3rd, 2018 from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m.
So moved. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that authorization be granted for ICNA Relief USA 87-91, 144th Street, Jamaica, New York, 11435, to hold a back-to-school event on Sunday, August 12th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Parking Field 11. Said permission is contingent upon compliance with the rules and regulations of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead Police Department and all liability in connection with the holding of this event and observance of the Code of the Village of Hempstead as it applies to group gatherings of this type. The filing of all appropriate insurance as determined by the board herein and indemnification and execution to hold harmless agreement and such terms and conditions may be acceptable to the village attorney.
So moved. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that authorization be granted for all the way 100% Incorporated P.O. Box 18, Hempstead, New York, 11551, to hold a back-to-school community day on Tuesday, August 28, 2018, from 12 noon to 6 p.m. on Bell Street and Margaret Court. Said permission is contingent upon compliance with the rules and regulations of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead Police Department and all liability in connection with the holding of this event and the observance of the Code of the Village of Hempstead as it applies to group gatherings of such type. The filing of all appropriate insurance as determined by the board herein and indemnification and execution of the whole harmless agreement on such terms and conditions as may be acceptable to the village attorney.
So moved. Second.
Just a quick question, is ICNA is mixed in all the yeah, I think that's what
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that authorization be granted for SUNY Farmingdale LIEOC 269 Fulton Avenue, Hempstead, New York 11550 to hold an open house on Thursday, August 16, 2018 from 3:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. in Parking Field 5A. Said permission is contingent upon compliance with the rules and regulations of the Hempstead Police Department and all liability in connection with the holding of this event and observance of the Code of the Village of Hempstead as it applies to group gatherings of this type. Filing of all appropriate insurance as determined by the board herein and indemnification and the execution of director will hold harmless again on such terms and conditions as may be acceptable to the village attorney.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption. That in recognition of the 375th anniversary of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead, and in recognition of the dedicated service of the former mayor, James A. Garner, to the village and the community, authorization is hereby granted for the official naming of Nichols Court to James A. Garner Way on Saturday, September 29, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Moreover, this resolution prohibits any future administration from changing the name of the street to anything other than James A. Garner Way.
You're going to answer
has given me this opportunity to cheer the 375th anniversary of the village of Hempstead. We are excited about what's going to take place on September the 29th, and we are very excited to honor former Mayor James Garner. We are honoring him. You all know that he was the mayor for 16 years, but when you begin to look at history, and as our historian was here before, and there's so much African American history that we don't have, after 300 years, he's the first African American mayor, and that's why we need to celebrate this this time and to celebrate the works that he's done. We're doing a lot of things. I'm thankful for the committee that has worked very hard. Samantha Fountain, who just put me on the spot, is a part of that committee. And it's from 11 to 12:30 when we are renaming the street. It's at the beginning of the day. It's from 11 to 12:30. There's a lot of other activities. You'll see information around the village. I don't want to hold too much time, but we hope that all of you all are there. Thank you.
I should mention the street is from Washington Street to Main Street. And also, I believe Mayor James Garner was the first person of color to be a mayor in the state of New York. I think he beat David Jenkins.
Yes,
I think that's
correct.
About
About 3 months.
Yeah.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption. That authorization be granted to appoint Carla Guerrera to the Town of Hempstead Industrial Development Agency when reviewing applications and approving pilot agreements for properties located within the village of Hempstead.
So moved. I have a question.
Yes.
At this time, is it 4 people already seated for the IDA for Hempstead? Has anything changed?
It has. Roshi Walker's application by the attorney, John Ryan, for the ID board was refused. Calling New York State Conference of Mayors, we got the same reaction at that level as well from Wade Beltramo. So, in fact, there is an opening. I did talk to the ID board today to verify same.
We had it ready.
The writing went to the
everyone was emailed last Friday. I sent the email from NICOM as well as all the attachments that were sent from John Ryan from the Town of Hempstead IDA, where my question was whether or not he could just simply recuse himself during that time that the company he's associated with was before the board, and the answer was no. And that opinion was sent to NICOM and they confirmed it. Late this afternoon, in reference to a phone call that the mayor made, I received another email from John Ryan, so I specifically asked him about whether or not during the pendency of the time that Mr. Walker's company was before the board, that he would not be on, and then reappointed once his application was reviewed, and the answer was no again. It's during the entire time that the pilot is in place, if it's in place, for the company's associated.
I would like to see it in writing.
I'd like to see it in writing too. So just in sort of layman's terms, Mr. Walker has an application pending in front of the IDA board which under, and there's conflicts of interest, potentially conflicts of interest, which there are on this board, on the IDA board, on any other board that there are across this great nation, and it's typical for there to be walls put up, whereas people are able to recluse themselves. But because Mr. Walker is, son of the village of Hempstead, highly educated, and wants the best out of the village of Hempstead, the town of Hempstead IDA board saw it fit to concoct a diagram of 8 different laws where they tried to roll together. And at the end of the day,
hey, you're rude and out of order. The trustees speaking.
Relax, both of you, please.
And at the end of the day, you can look at the letter. You can look at the letter that's just down over here on the floor where I highlighted. They actually told Mr. Walker that if he sat on the board, he could face civil penalties and misdemeanor charges. I have never seen in my life somebody who is volunteering to be on the board with their civic responsibility actually be threatened, right, or to veil threat with civil penalties and misdemeanor charges. To me, it reeks of Jim Crow. It reeks of voter suppression. It reeks of everything like that as it associates with that letter. So we have a real problem here, and we know already that the IDA board is not for us, not with us, and this just proves it. I've never in my life seen somebody write a letter that basically says you can be charged with misdemeanor charges just for serving on a board. It is preposterous for us to just sit here and act like that's cool. That just shows we're complicit in it.
And counsel advises it's okay.
Excuse me, please. Thank you. Question.
First off, I'd like to address, I'm not going, when people speak out for the audience and denigrate me, I expect this board to take action.
Please, that's not appropriate at all. That's not appropriate at all. That is not fair to our council.
It's not fair it should not fair what she facilitates and allows to happen to
we need
people
no
with
further comment
disabilities.
from you, sir, please.
Ad nauseam.
It is not permissible for you to do that to an individual or me, the rest of us. Thank you.
Is Rashi Walker been removed?
I asked for him, as far as I know, why are you attacking him?
Because that's
As far
unacceptable.
as
You don't speak out from the audience.
As far as I know,
If he's still on the board and he hasn't been removed,
Unacceptable. My own vote there.
I'm removing my vote. I don't want to change the vote of a person and another person's still there. Now you say it is done.
no, that's not what I said. The question to me was, what was the upshot? Have they come out and what was their response? And I said to this board, I sent you everything. I sent you everything from NICOM. I sent you everything from Mr.
John
Ryan.
Ryan.
And then I sent, on Friday, I spoke to Mr. Walker, and I copied him on an email that I sent specifically to Mr. Ryan, asking him.
I voted for this gentleman, this lady or gentleman, whoever it is. Lady, because I felt we didn't have nobody in the seat. But if he's still in the seat, I'm not voting for him.
Okay, so my
We can go to August 21, but he is
Go to
not
August 21
in the seat. He is not in the seat. I have the same information everybody else has, but it would be perhaps more comfortable if he sent a letter that was less legalese and simply said that the seat has been vacated by law. An opening is awaited by this board so they can have the 4 representatives of the deputy speaker made possible.
He wasn't vacated. They refused to sit him. There's a huge difference. They
Okay.
refused to sit him.
Well, it's a game of semantics because
No, semantics is you'll be charged with misdemeanor charges if you sit on this board. And you tell me where you sit now. You can pick up the phone and say, I think I have a problem.
I'm comfortable with waiting. I want everyone to be on the same page. But let me explain to you. He was sworn in, and when it came time to be seated, the counsel for the IDA board said he could not be. And I said to him, I was not even invited, nor were the other trustees to the swearing-in exercise. They were not either. That is another argument for a different day. But we're now sitting here with the 2 letters we have. One from the New York State Conference of Mayors, and one from the council of the IDA board of the town of Hempstead. A briefer, less legalese statement to make it more comfortable. On August 21, we could add that to the agenda.
Then here's my suggestion if we're going to do that. The 2 people that were removed still have not gotten a letter saying that they were removed. So I guess we have 6 people sitting on the board.
There's no one there.
The 2 people that were removed haven't gotten anything in writing either.
And that's inappropriate as well.
Right, so if we're going to do it fairly,
target that guy.
Please, Mike, let's not do it.
That's not right. And you're facilitating it. And
It's
she's
not-
counseling and advising it's okay.
There is not,
You can't talk out
it's
and
not an
vote.
open forum. There is not an open forum. There's not an open forum of back and forth with the audience. Mayor of the board, there's not an open forum.
Here we go. Here we go. With the permission of the board, we'll hold that to the August 21. We can
You're discussing even now. There's not a back and forth. Thank you. There's not a back and forth.
We're
There's not a back and forth.
okay. Let's move on to the next item.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption, that the Board of Trustees and the Mayor indicate their support for the transfer of the Park Lake apartment complex from its current owners, Park Lake Residence LP Omni, to Park Lake Owner LLC, which is affiliated with Belveron Partners, Canberra Groups, and Metropolitan Realty LLC.
So moved.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis? Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Does the board wish to approve the amended memorandum of agreement for Chief of Police Paul Johnson?
Move.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Does the board wish to approve the amended memorandum of agreement for Assistant Chief of Police Patrick Cook?
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Does the board wish to approve amended memorandum of agreement for Deputy Chief of Police Richard Holland?
So moved. Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Does the board wish to approve the amended 2017 Hempstead Fire Department Service Awards points finals totals?
Is anyone from the fire department at all?
That's in reference to the LoSAP. That's in reference to the LoSAP points. that
We did this, but Joseph Holmes' name was
They
in
amended some
the-
names and added some more names to it.
Move.
I need a second.
Did somebody move? Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption, authorizing the addition of the title Secretary of the Fire Department to the Executive Staff Compensation and Benefits Resolution adopted on August 19, 2008.
Move. Second. I have a question. I know can you explain to me exactly what that means?
Is separate and apart from the civil service contract for those members of the employment of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead that don't have civil service titles, there is an executive staff compensation benefit agreement. Well, we call it a resolution because it was passed by resolution. And this is requesting that the Secretary of the Fire Department title be added to the executive staff compensation and benefits resolution.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, that means that they get the same vacation, same. That means the person who holds that position would get the same vacation, sick days, and benefits as the remaining people that are already on the executive staff compensation and benefits resolution. So the resolution was adopted several years ago, and it has titles in it. Those titles that get the benefit of being deemed an executive. And this is a request that the Secretary of the Fire Department be deemed part of that plan.
Who is the secretary? U.S. Watch.
The Dr. Cedric Easter.
So what, is that equivalent to union protection or things like that?
No,
No.
doesn't give you union protection.
No, he serves the Bureau in my.
Where can we see that? Is there printed somewhere? That book?
It's a document. You get it from payroll. They should have a copy. You write an email, you ask the clerk to
I didn't know it existed.
Yeah, you can ask the clerk to email the legislature. This would be adding a title to it.
Is this something that we got to do today?
We have to vote on that.
You have to vote. It's like anything else. You don't have to vote on anything. You want to fix it.
I don't even know what the resolution is that we refer to. The executive compensation and benefits resolution. I don't know what's included.
Can I hear the discussion?
Sorry, I was asking that. No, I don't know what that resolution is. The executive. I'd like to see that resolution before I know what I'm signing up for, or we're signing up for. That's what I was saying.
Thank you.
So,
do you want the item pulled, trustees?
I'm satisfied if you're not, and we want to hold to the 21st. Together.
Take a look. Okay. Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
I abstain.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offer the following resolution for adoption that permission is hereby granted for Lionel Escobar to Family Medical Leave Act commencing July 17, 2018.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that permission is hereby granted to village employee Derek Dotson to use Family Medical Leave Act entitlement commencing June 26, 2018.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption authorizing the appointment of seasonal employees of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead. Damar Collier, DPW laborer. Abner Samarum, Parks and Recreation lifeguard.
Second. Question? Question?
Yes.
Yes. What's the salary?
They're only making $11 an hour. This is summer employment. Damar Collier, he just got approved and he just started the job today. He'll be working 4 hours. This is summer employment. And Abner Samarum had took the test of the 15 children that the Board of Trustees had approved, so went over to the Echo Park pool, and he finally passed. Congratulations to him. So he is over as a lifeguard.
His salary is a little higher.
His salary is $15 an hour. Lifeguards are $15.
Thank you.
This is summer youth from 16 to 22, just to let you know. Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Does the Board of Trustees wish to approve the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee PTS 2019 Hempstead Village PD 002255-030 grant for statewide police traffic program of the Hempstead Police Department for the fiscal year 2018-2019 in the amount of $18,450 for the period commencing October 1st, 2018 through September 20, 2019.
Second.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption, authorizing the appointment of and/or salary changes for full-time and/or part-time employees of the Incorporated Village of Hempstead reviewed as follows. Timothy Carroll, 99 Nichols Court, Hempstead, New York, promotion. Department, DPW, sewer pumps, title, supervisor, sewage pumping, grade 17-6, new. Salary, $74,092 upon approval. Gaetano Leon, 99 Nichols Court, Hempstead, New York, title change. Department, DPW, water and sewer, title, laborer, full-time, grade 104-6, new. Salary, $58,800, effective July 16, 2018. Stephen Horowitz, 99 Nichols Court, Hempstead, New York, promotion. Department, Hempstead Police Department. Detective Sergeant, salary $162,185 upon civil service approval. Police Officer Matt Murphy, 99 Nichols Court, Hempstead, New York, promotion. Department, Hempstead Police Department, title, Detective 1, salary $141,376 upon civil service approval. Juan Miranda, 99 Nichols Court, Hempstead, New York, promotion. Hempstead Police Department, Detective 1, salary $140,626 upon civil service approval.
Second. Just on the point, so everyone is clear. There is 2 paragraphs I'll just read, giving the legal reasons behind this. The designated detective per civil service law, section 58A, sub 4C, that states police officers perform the duties of a detective for 18 continuous months. He or she will receive detective status. As these 3 people have performed these functions of detective on a full-time basis over the past 18 months, in effect since the inception of the gang unit, the law requires that they receive permanent appointment to detective. Thank you.
I have a question. Hello?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes. Fire away.
For the chiefs, when do we plan on promoting sergeants and or lieutenants to fill the positions that we've already filled, so we can stop incurring so much overtime?
It's going to be the next board meeting. That's going to be at the next board meeting.
September board meeting. It's in the mailboxes. It's an information plan that's already been put in writing and shared with the students. Yes.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
I have one addendum. Does the board wish to execute an indication of concurrence with respect to the Town of Hempstead Industrial Agency retention of Camone Associates and the Central Governmental Research for properties located within the Village of Hempstead?
So moved.
Need a second?
Second. Question? I wasn't quite clear on that. I don't have a.
So the IDA to stay intact with the law that Deputy Speaker Hoover put on the books, that there was supposed to be a separate impact analysis done for any projects that were being heard in the Village of Hempstead. And so the Town of Hempstead IDA Board put together an RFP. It didn't include us in the RFP to let us know or even have input in it, but yet they did an RFP. They chose these 2 groups, and now they say we have to approve these 2 groups. We tried to figure out what these 2 groups were going to actually provide, and they were told not to speak to us and to use these 2 groups and vote on it for us.
I didn't get that, but that's curious. But nevertheless,
the messaging they give to me is different than they give to you.
I hear you. The IDA assistance for this project located in the Village of Hempstead, we still have the right for them to pay expenses for an additional consultant that we retain.
Under this.
Yes.
This resolution, not per the IDA.
Yeah, that's the purpose, I believe, of the resolution.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes.
Clerk offers the following resolution for adoption that all meeting bills, including self-insurance funds, ordered by the Board of Trustees, check warrant dated August 6, 2018, be approved as previously reviewed. Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Pettis?
Yes.
Trustee Renfro?
Yes.
Trustee Daniels?
Yes.
Mayor Ryan?
Yes. I now have several questions for the open mic part of the evening. Reginald Lucas, if you would go first, please.
To find out
Now, how many shots have been fired since the last board meeting? And then what were the outcomes of the shootings? Not only the shootings, I'm also interested in other acts of violence, stabbings, and physical abuse. Those things I'm interested in also. Now, my last meeting with you guys was at the round table, and you're supposed to get together with other department heads to face up with the problem of home invaders or whatever that was. Did y'all put that together?
What's the question?
At the round table we had in the library, you're supposed to put together with other department heads, you know, the problem with people moving in the houses and not really being owners, you know, squatters. Did you put together anything like that yet?
Well, we addressed that one specific incident about Phoenix Street. But as far as any other houses, we usually work when we get a complaint on a specific house. Somebody will call us and tell us there's squatters staying in there.
Yeah, no, I thought that you guys were going to put together some sort of a group of department heads so that you can deal with these squatters so that they don't stay there indefinitely. You know what I mean? Is that still operational?
Yes, the group was on prior to that meeting and remains intact. We do have a plan to try to see what we can do. We are aware the so-called zombie homes are an issue.
Is that an official group or that just?
No, it's an official group.
Who is on that group? Can you tell me?
Well, actually, you assist me with this, but keep in mind, a lot of people think we own those homes. We do not, so it's not as easy a plan as you. Who is on the committee, sir? For the zombie homes.
I am on the committee for zombie homes. I've been working closely with Ms. Thompson from our CDA. What's your question?
My question was when we met with Chief Position, he said that he was going to get the department heads together to deal with the issues of the zombie homes, of trying to get the people out.
Okay.
Like for the building department, the fire department, and these heads as a group to confront them so that they don't be injected tenants.
Okay, right. So getting squatters out is not what we do, of course, as you have already heard. That's an issue that you deal with the police department. But you do know it's not an easy task. Once those squatters have been there for a while, they can't just come out. It's a long, arduous process to get them out. But they do have squatters rights, as you all know. It will take too much time for us to talk about that tonight. But yes, we can't just get them out.
I just thought that they would put together a group of the department heads to deal with that.
Squad. I have not. I don't know. I wasn't in that meeting, so I can't. I don't know what the group that they're supposed to be put together.
So the answer is no. I would like for that group to be formulated.
We didn't say that we were formulating a group.
No,
we consult with other department heads.
Yeah, I understand
to address that problem. We didn't say we were formulating.
Okay, we know what you're saying. We're going into this. We'll try to accommodate you, and we'll have a number of guests as you would indicate in the next meeting as well.
All right, now, another question was how many shots were fired since the last meeting?
For the month of July, we had 41 shot spotter alerts, but only 6 confirmed shootings. You have to realize that July, you have the 4th of July, we had a lot of fireworks and other things going off, which set off shot spotter. Also, the shot spotter picks up down in Nassau County in the Hempstead range. Those are shot spotter alerts whenever they're shooting, but there were 6 confirmed shootings.
All right, that means that the person was shot in the arm leg.
That doesn't mean a person was shot, that means there were shots fired. I believe there were 2 people shot. One of them ended up in hospital, I believe, in Jamaica. Says he got shot in Hempstead. There was another case where somebody showed up at a hospital in Manhattan and said he got shot in Hempstead. We believe the guy in Jamaica shot himself.
Okay, now, what about any other weapon that was used, a knife or anything? Frank, in that aspect?
Oh, we do have there was one stabbing victim that I know of. Somebody got sliced in the neck, that was superficial, he had some stitches, and now it's it.
And that's it for the month of July?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bill Salmon.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees.
Good evening.
As a lifelong resident of Hempstead and having worked in county, town, and village positions during my 40-plus year career, I have come to believe that the negative image of our community, which has developed over the past several decades, has become the most significant, perhaps most significant, impediment to our progress. The recent indictment and arrest of Trustee Perry Pettis on criminal charges of alleged corruption involving the abuse of his office and misuse of village resources only serves to reinforce his damaging perception. Innocent until proven guilty is a pillar of our legal structure, as it should be in a democratic society. However, individuals who seek and gain public power must be held to a higher standard of accountability, and they must avoid even the appearance of impropriety. The trust of the people in their elected officials cannot be shaken if government is to function effectively. Trustee Pettis' actions have seriously weakened this administration's image and threatens to impair its ability to function, as it has cast a shadow over the village's services and responsibilities. Good government cannot exist in an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust, and those that create it must be removed. Good government cannot exist in an atmosphere. Would you remove this gentleman, please? He's disrupting a public event, governmental operation. Good government cannot exist in an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust, and those that create it must be removed quickly. On behalf of the Unity Party volunteers and supporters who worked to elect him, I call upon Perry Pettis to resign from the remainder of the
I have information on all of it. Sensitive issue. Please allow. Let the person conclude, please. You want to speak to the mic? No, we want to make sure Don get his 30 votes.
I call upon Perry Pettis to resign from the remainder of his term as trustee.
People.
He's elected to serve the best interests of the village, and his resignation is now the only way he can do so.
Hold on. People, realize it's a sensitive issue, but I am here to the idea that you're innocent.
I will take you down.
And there should be no comment on an ongoing investigation. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gary.
Good evening. With respect to the recent arrest of Trustee Perry Pettis, the actions he is charged with are, in my opinion, actually somewhat minor, in comparison with the actions committed by himself together with various other village officials who, in my opinion, have obstructed justice and engaged in official misconduct with respect to the adoption and implementation of the Master Development Agreement. As we all know, through their official actions, approximately $35 million worth of village-owned parking lots were transferred to develop Renaissance downtowns for free. This has not only resulted in serious and material injury to the residents, it has set the community up for even more devastating consequences in the future. I bring this to your attention not to minimize the seriousness of what Perry has been charged with. I say it rather to accent the atrocious level of mismanagement, probable conspiracy, lying, and deceit that has been carried on by various village officials and the developer, and I believe by certain attorneys as well, with respect to the downtown redevelopment. While I do not have sufficient information to know whether or not Mr. Pettis is actually guilty as charged, I do have sufficient information and evidence to conclude that he and other officials, including former Mayor Wayne Hall, current Mayor Don Ryan, and others, withheld material information and facts from the public at the February 7, 2012 public hearing, and that they continued to protect the lies subsequent to the hearing. I have personally witnessed trustees Pettis, Ryan, Conyers, and Rosario sit silently by at the February public hearing while Mayor Hall and the CDA director directly lied and misled the public when they stated that the hearing was about the sale of only a mere 10 acres of parking lots. They concealed the fact that the Master Developer Agreement contract was about the sale of 32 acres, not 10 acres, and they concealed the additional fact that the agreement was and is also a contract to sell the village hall, the library, 2 firehouses, Denton Green, and a children's playground, in addition to all the parking lots. The fact is that the village is still under contract to sell all these properties, in spite of having had a duty to disclose this information at the public hearing and in the notice. An unbiased observer would conclude that the information was deliberately withheld in order to deceive the people and deny them of their right to speak to this issue at the hearing. At 2 subsequent public meetings in 2015, which I attended, again, the officials withheld the truth with respect to the list of properties that were to be appraised. It was stated at those meetings that only parking lot 1 was being appraised. However, when the appraisals were released in December of that year, they showed that 17 parking lots had been appraised, not just 1. This information was also withheld from me directly when I applied for the information under the Freedom of Information Law. Furthermore, in legal papers filed by the attorneys for the village and the developer, they stated that the appraisal price could not be determined until a final development plan had been approved by all parties. As we all know, a final development plan has never been approved by the parties. Yet they proceeded to hold the appraisals anyway and secretly submitted unapproved make-believe plans to the appraisers. Is there any wonder that the appraisers came up with a determination that the property should be given away for free? In my opinion, these actions have been unconscionable at a level that far exceeds the charges brought against Trustee Pettis. Yet no one, as yet, has been arrested for these crimes.
And many more.
I look forward to the day that the people of the community raise their voices such that Hempstead can be saved from this rule of tyranny and that justice and good sense can finally prevail in this village. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your statement. Shelley Graisley.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Trustees. Shelley Grayson, 87 Manor Avenue. I have a few things to say, but most importantly, is the Mazda pilot that was just granted. I'm very, very concerned. We're talking about water We're talking about not having resources for the people that live here. Yet, we're granting pilots to the Mazda dealer that has the #1 sales in the state of New York. My tax bill is $1,600 a month. Did you hear me? $1,600 a month. And we're granting pilots to businesses that sell, that have the top sales in the entire state. I don't understand how any of you can think that that is fair to the residents of this community. I really don't. I don't understand how you're going to pay a water bill for a business on 44 Newman Court and nobody's paying my water bill. I don't understand that. I don't understand how this community, I mean, I'm always going out of my way to be as pleasant as possible to everyone. No matter what anybody thinks, I really try to do that. But you are single-handedly turning me into an angry black woman. And I'm sick of it. I don't understand how I can come up here and ask, how many cars does this village own? Who pays for the gas of these cars? Who are these cars distributed to? Who pays the insurance for these cars? Who's paying for this bill? That would be my $1,600 a month in taxes. And we have fire department vehicles on the New Jersey Turnpike at the Great Adventure exit. And when I bring up these things in a meeting, all of a sudden a house that was built in 1971 with double doors and a balcony, all of a sudden it's illegal and it was never in the building plans. Really? So I get fined. I have to pay a contractor to turn my doors that have always been there into a window. I say nothing because I don't know what's going to happen before they have to come and re-inspect my home. What are they going to find next time? Because I'm asking questions? Yep. I'm listening. It's my right to answer questions. And it's also my right to get answers to those questions. Like Ms. Gary said, you're giving away parking lots, you're giving away all the revenue, you're giving raises to people that don't live here. People that don't live here are driving around in vehicles and I have to pay the gas and the insurance. When is enough enough? When is enough enough? Now that Mazda pilot, I think everybody in this room needs to help me. We need to be bringing national attention to Mazda. We need to know. Everybody needs to know how much our tax bills are. I'm willing to give mine up, but we need to be picketing that place. We need to have all of the media understand clearly how we're being exploited in this community.
There's a whole list of them. Oxford University included.
Speaking out. Yeah, so, okay, all right. I had other questions. I didn't need to get that engaged, but I'm really serious about this. It's not fair what you're doing to black and brown people in this community. 44% of the people in this community are Latino, 48% are black. And we can't build any generational wealth because you keep exploiting us. We're not a city, so we don't get the sales tax. So can the town of Hempstead please tell me how the residents of the 11550 benefit from a Mazda dealer getting a pilot? How do we benefit from that? 5 jobs? 5 entry-level jobs where these kids can't even pay the rent after you give them an apprenticeship? When is enough enough?
No
when
justice, no peace.
Now, I had a
totally unacceptable.
No, speaking out from the floor.
That is true.
I'd also like to know, there were several contracts mentioned tonight, many of them over $1 million. Is there a local business preference on any of these contracts? Is there an MWBE goal on any of these projects? The people that live here and have paid for generations these bills, is there any way anybody that lives in the 11550 is ever going to benefit from the raping of this community? That's all I want to know. When do we get ours? When do we get ours? I hear crickets. I would
I don't want the firemen coming around my house, going in my backyard, looking up in my window. I don't want that kind of retaliation because I'm upset with how I'm being treated in this community. Enough, and I love all of y'all, but I'm telling you all, enough is enough. Me and the residents in this community should not have to put up with this another day while all these people that don't live here walk away with all the daggone money. And we can't even
This is the first time a name has been put to the criticism regarding your house. I'll definitely investigate tomorrow. As to the FDR water bill that was not voted on this evening, that is going to be at the next board meeting. And the Mazda, then the Mazda question, you have 4 people on the board. At that time, there was only 3. 1 voted no.
I voted no.
Well, can we have some people that respect us enough on that IDA board? I mean, every stopgap that's put into place, we have trouble behind it. The deputy speaker starts talking about pilots, and now all of a sudden, she's been talking about the plantation mentality for years. Now all of a sudden, the party's pulling out and all this other nonsense. It's nonsense where the people in this community, our lives are at stake. My children can't keep my home if something happens to me. My children can't pay the mortgage, the gas, the electric, and $1,600 a month to live in this place where you can't even send your kids to school. And there's nothing but excuses about this stuff. Enough already. We can't pay those people on Franklin Avenue who make #1 sales, and we don't get any sales tax. We're not a city. Why do we have an incorporated village? We don't need this layer of government if the town is going to poop on you all and you're going to let them. We don't need it.
Justice, no peace.
A court case has been invoked, showing the same wish that you have, that a fair distribution of the tax be made, including to the village of Hempstead. We only hope that we can win in court, because clearly it is unfair. Karen Huff.
We need to be in front of that mosque every day.
I'm here because we've had this ongoing conversation several times. But I think that since you're the mayor, you need to revamp and go and look back at your building department and code enforcement. I've been sitting in this community, and I'm quite sure a lot of us have wondered how do people come into our community and take a house and turn it into 4 and 5 family, a single home. But you know what? When I called your building department after speaking to you, Mr. Mayor, your worker who handles my area said to me, I need an invitation from you to come on the property. You know, I said to you from the beginning, in this community, I mean, we see it on the news everywhere. You see something, say something. But in this community, you see something and you say something, it's like putting a gun to your head. And when your worker said to me, you give me an invitation and I will come on the property, if you see someone bringing sheetrock and you see them bringing towels and everything else into our home, and you know that that home is a 2-family, you see people who are gutting out work in a house to redo something. Why do you need me? I mean, why do we have a judge? That is that's code enforcement. They need to go then to the judge and get an order to enter that property to see what's going on. Because the only person you're putting at risk, we're people in this community, and you always want, I mean, it's like we're always being put at risk. You know, You want us to tell it so you can go back to the landlord or whomever and say, oh, Karen House told me to come in here. You know, I got the invitation from her. No. Tell code enforcement to do their job. Go to the judge and get an order to enter the property to see what's going on. Because this is ridiculous. I mean, we're living in, you see these places, one family home, and you're seeing, at least 5 and 6 families living there. I know a basement apartment of where I'm living at, and it has 2 families living in that basement apartment. One day you have 7 kids. Tell me, how do you live in a basement apartment with 7 kids? And it's like 4 families living in that basement apartment. But code enforcement can't do anything about it unless they get invited in. We don't need them riding around in our cars, just riding up and down the street, burning out gas. I'm just saying, something's got to be done. Enough is enough. It's like the house is burning down, and we're in it. We're in it, and we're suffering. Some days, there's time now, we have to wonder whether or not we're going to feed our kids, or we're going to pay our bills, or we're going to keep a roof over our head. But I'm at a point in our instability. We want out. Because if you can't change things, I don't understand why we have a village government. I see people living, in not incorporated villages who are doing a hell of a lot better than we are. I don't even know why we have a police department. In fact, what I tell people all the time, I love you guys, but I consider you as glorified security guards because you got to take somebody to come in. Please, Don, do something with your code enforcement. You need to really do something and revamp it.
Please call the comment and raise it. But I will call over to make sure the code enforcement call, every time you call it, you respond.
Yes. And
but
when I made that phone call, Mr. Jackson, I'm going to give you the name. Mr. Jackson says to me, and please tell Mr. Jackson, if he's going to represent our village, pull up his pants and put a belt on it. Okay? And also, he turned around and told me, oh, I got a call from the mayor, but I need you to invite me on the property. If you see something wrong, you need to go and do something about it. That means you need a warrant to do it.
Okay, I'll be on the phone in a moment. That's good. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. And we come to the next board meeting.